Live from Adelaide, 7 News with Elspeth Hussey.
Good afternoon. There are fears firebugs have struck again after a fast-moving grass fire threatened almost a dozen properties in the northern suburbs. As Peter Caldecott reports, the flames came within metres of homes, forcing people to flee with their children.
Residents who live next to the Joe Gapper Recreation Park raised the alarm just before 1:30am when they woke to see flames racing down this hill towards their homes. Some grabbed their kids and jumped into cars to escape the inferno, while others stayed to protect their properties.
When I came out, I'd just seen top of the hills just raging away. Oh, it was pretty intense. The embers were starting to come and hit a couple of the roofs.
Fortunately, CFS crews raced to the scene and got between the fire front and homes to battle the blaze.
Thank Christ the fire engine came within 10 minutes. Every house could have gone up. Yeah, you're talking about, 100 metres?
Police crime scene investigators were at the activity park this morning. They believe the blaze was deliberately lit.
They're just crazy, you know what I mean? It's just like, think of us guys, you know what I mean, and residents in the area.
Well, had the wind got up and had the wind come this way, you'd have taken out an awful lot of homes along this stretch. Hats off to the fireys. Fantastic job.
Today's close call comes less than 2 months after another deliberately lit grass fire at Uliebury, just a few kilometres away, came within metres of destroying a farmhouse. Again, CFS volunteers managed to save that home from a senseless arson attack. Police want to talk to anyone who may have seen suspicious activity near the recreation park just before the fire started.
A family of fishermen heading for a day on the river have saved the life of a driver trapped in a fiery crash at Waikerie in the Riverland. The 25-year-old's car caught fire after slamming into a stobie pole. The trio leapt into action with one of the men grabbing a fire extinguisher.
The person that was at the service station grabbed the fire extinguisher and ran down here, put the fire out. That's probably saved the bloke's life.
The driver was taken to hospital with severe leg injuries. At 6 o'clock, we speak to the rescuers. Friends of Olivia Suryo, the Adelaide uni student killed last week in a tree fall tragedy, have gathered at the site of her death for a minute's silence. The 22-year-old cycling group then headed off on a memorial drive to the beach, then back. It comes amid calls from an independent MP for ageing gum trees along our roads to be yanked out. We'll have more on this story in our main news hour at 6. Bats resting on power lines are being blamed for blackouts which plunged more than 2,000 homes into darkness overnight. Early morning motorists were still running the gauntlet at the intersection of Glen Osmond and Greenhill Roads this morning. SA Power Networks found electrocuted bats on power lines in the inner southern and eastern suburbs. Power was restored to most customers around 9:30am. Well, Taylor Swift fans are storming the MCG in preparation for another spectacular concert tonight. And Lucy McLeod is there for us, and you were lucky enough to be inside last night, Lucy. This was the biggest concert in Taylor's career.
Night 2 of the Eras Tour.
Oh, it was phenomenal, but not just the biggest concert of her career, the biggest female concert of a decade, and you can see why. Have a look at these fans. How do you feel, girls? Last night was absolutely phenomenal. Fans just hanging off her every word for 45 songs straight, 3.5 hours. Even Taylor Swift had to take a moment for herself to take it all in. She was absolutely in awe of her audience. Take a listen.
Join the MCG.
I'm just taking a mental picture for myself. Just for any time that I'm sad. I'm just gonna remember all of this.
And Lucy, fans are already packing the stadium for another memorable night.
It's going to be a big one. I mean, just have a look at how many people are packed just behind me. They're all sort of flooding in now as the frenzy begins before these doors open. We are expecting similar numbers tonight, just under 100,000 fans, all singing their hearts out as their wildest dreams come true. What do we think, girls? It's lots of fun out here. You're missing out.
Indeed we are. Thank you, Lucy. 30 asylum seekers will be flown to Nauru after they were found on a remote beach in Western Australia. Border Force has issued a stern warning saying politicising the issue only makes the problem worse. Isabel Mullen reports.
Well, as we go to air, a plane is waiting on a remote airstrip to pick up 30 asylum seekers and take them to the offshore detention centre. We're told the men from Bangladesh and Pakistan are currently being bussed to that waiting plane. It is understood they spent 5 days at sea before arriving at Beagle Bay, a remote Indigenous community about 100 kilometres north of Broome in Western Australia. They had attempted to walk to the nearest town in search of water when they were picked up by locals. Border Force officials met them. The Prime Minister stressing they will not be able to stay here when speaking to the media this afternoon.
People who attempt to arrive here by boat will not settle here.
The opposition leader has been quick to blame the government's response to the High Court ruling that indefinite immigration detention is illegal. Peter Dutton saying people smugglers will take advantage of the situation.
I know exactly how these people smugglers work. They will react to a weak Prime Minister and to a weak Minister. And if they see vulnerabilities, they will exploit them.
Border Force officials have been quick to react, saying their approach hasn't changed since Operation Sovereign Borders began in 2013. Any alternate narrative will be exploited by criminal people smugglers. We'll have the very latest in the news at 6.
The Western world is today pointing the finger at Vladimir Putin after his biggest opponent died in custody in a Russian jail. These are the last known pictures of Alexei Navalny just hours before his death was reported. Around Moscow, mourners and protesters alike have bravely honoured the Kremlin critic. Some of them were arrested for their show of support. Navalny's death is sadly not surprising, but shocking all the same, as Ashley Mullaney reports.
There is international outrage tonight over Alexei Navalny's death. He dared stand up to Vladimir Putin and now he has paid with his life. It was only yesterday Navalny was seen in court. He looked gaunt but otherwise in good spirits, joking with court staff. Then this morning came the shocking news from prison guards that he'd fallen ill while out on a walk and died suddenly. As far as the White House is concerned, it's black and white that Putin is behind his death.
Russian authorities are going to tell their own story. But make no mistake, Putin is responsible for Navalny's death. Putin is responsible.
Right after learning about his death, Navalny's wife stepped on stage in Munich, vowing Putin would pay for what he's done to Russia and her family. Navalny was jailed in 2021, accused of terrorism for challenging Putin and exposing corruption. In December, he was moved even further out of sight to a brutal penal colony known as the Polar Wolf. This coming after he was poisoned with the nerve agent Novichok on a flight from Serbia to Russia. Somehow he survived and bravely returned to Russia knowing he'd be arrested. When Navalny appeared in a documentary, he spoke as if his days were numbered and urged Russians to keep fighting if he was killed. But that looks increasingly difficult when this is the price paid for standing up to Vladimir Putin.
And Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has also taken aim at Vladimir Putin following news of Navalny's death.
Well, this is, of course, a tragedy. And Australia is shocked and saddened by the news of Alexei Navalny's death. And we hold Vladimir Putin and the Russian regime responsible for this death in prison. Vladimir Putin is an authoritarian. And we have a divide in the world between authoritarian regimes and democracies. We cannot take democracy for granted. We need to cherish it and nurture it, and we need to call out the behaviour of authoritarians like Vladimir Putin.
Donald Trump has suffered a devastating legal defeat, ordered to pay more than $500 million in a civil fraud trial. Trump and his companies were found to have engaged in a years-long scheme using dodgy financial statements to inflate his wealth.
But a crooked New York State judge just ruled that I have to pay a fine for having built a perfect company. So this is Russia, this is China, this is what you've been reading about all your lives, and it's happening right here in our country.
And it's not just the money. Trump has also been barred from running a business in New York for 3 years. His sons, Donald Jr. and Eric, have also been fined and banned for 2 years. Trump says he will appeal. A musical all about the King is on its way to Adelaide, but first, the mission to find the best young Elvis. See the auditionees? That's next. Plus, drone vision captures the moment a highway washes away in Brazil. A groundbreaking new AI program creates lifelike videos with just a few simple steps. And could there be a fix to the royals' bitter rift with Harry? The Prince speaks out. Prince Harry has hinted his father's illness may help heal some rifts among the British royals. The Prince has spoken at an event in Canada about King Charles's cancer diagnosis. Tim Lester reports.
It's been 11 days since Buckingham Palace made public the King's cancer diagnosis. Prince Harry making an immediate decision to visit his dad. Today, the California-based royal was willing to say a little, but not a lot, about his rushed trip back.
I jumped on a plane and went to go and see him as soon as I could.
How was that visit for you emotionally?
Look, I love my family. The fact that I was able to get on a plane and go and see him and spend any time with him, I'm grateful for that.
Buckingham Palace has given few details, simply saying doctors have diagnosed King Charles with a form of cancer.
What's sort of your outlook on his health?
That stays between me and him.
Though the Prince did acknowledge the King's illness might have a reunifying effect on his family.
Yeah, I'm sure. Throughout all these families, I see it on a day-to-day basis. The strength of the family unit coming together.
The Duke and Duchess of Sussex visiting British Columbia and ski resort Whistler, venue for next year's Invictus Games for injured ex-servicemen and women. To promote the Games, Harry took a ride on a bobsled, reaching a speed of 99 kilometres an hour. Prince Harry says he has more trips planned that will include stops in London, suggesting further visits as King Charles undergoes treatment.
Wild weather has led to the collapse of a highway in Brazil. A drone operated by emergency crews was hovering above the cracking road in the country's south when it suddenly gave way, sending bitumen and debris into a nearby river. It comes after weeks of torrential rain and widespread flooding there. Well, these videos might look real, but don't be fooled. They're entirely computer generated. A new artificial intelligence tool known as Sora has launched online, and it can take any text prompt and turn it into a short video. The technology has impressed even the most hardened AI experts who say it'll transform content creation. A group of young Adelaide rock and rollers has been given the chance to join the cast of the much-anticipated Elvis musical, heading right here in April. 3 lucky boys from today's auditions will be chosen to play Elvis during his childhood days. They'll share the role throughout the show's 3-week season at Her Majesty's Theatre.
We've got an incredible set of talented kids here today, and we're so excited to get working with them and discover that South Australian talent.
If I got this role, that might give me a stepping stone to success.
Good luck to him. The Elvis hopefuls will find out their fate next week. Well, coming up after the break, Abba will join us with sport as Port Adelaide's ruck battle heats up after last night's trials, while the Crows return from Port Lincoln. And Tiger Woods forced out of his own tournament, but this time not because of injury.
Good afternoon. Power recruiter Van Soldo showed why he's in the frame to become Port's #1 ruckman after an impressive performance in the club's internal trial. Soldo is in a 3-way battle with Jordan Sweet and Dante Vicentini.
They're all going well. We've got 3 to choose from, which is probably the most pleasing thing. Not to say we haven't in the past, but when you have 3 guys pushing for selection at this time of year, you're in a pretty good spot.
Josh Sin was also impressive. He looks ready to emerge after 2 injury-interrupted years. While the Crows return from Port Lincoln injury-free, Isaac Rankin starred with an increased role in the midfield. Essendon is plotting its AFL finals return this season. Star defender Mason Redmond chopped off his locks for charity, raising $50,000 at a family day this morning. The Bombers with full belief they can break their 20-year drought to win a final.
Everyone that plays AFL or any level of sport, to be honest, wants to win grand finals and get to the pointy end of the season, and we'd be kidding ourselves if we didn't think that.
The Hawks also held a family day, the two sides facing off against each other in round one. Australia has recorded the highest innings total in women's Test history thanks to Annabelle Sutherland. The 22-year-old belted the South African attack to all postcodes, scoring a mammoth 210 runs, the Victorians steering her side to a score of 575.
Yes. Bang! The fifth time an Australian has reached a double hundred in Test cricket. Annabelle Sutherland, bravo.
The Australians picked up late wickets to have the Proteas 3 for 67 at stumps. Alex Kedry's return has pumped some life into the Redbacks with 90 off 116 balls on day 2 of the Shield match against Queensland at Adelaide Oval. Youngster Jake Fraser-McGurk caught out just 1 run better than yesterday's duck. South Australia leads the Bulls by 187 with 1 wicket remaining, an improvement on yesterday's dismal performance, being bowled out in just 40 overs. Tiger Woods was forced to withdraw from his comeback tournament at the Genesis Invitational with the flu. The 15-time major winner made it through 6 holes in the second round at Riviera before calling it quits. It was a much better day for Will Zalatoris, winning himself and his caddy new cars with an ace on the 14th.
Oh, did he? He sure did.
Australia's Jason Day is tied for second at 8 under, 5 shots off runaway leader Patrick Cantlay. I reckon, Ellie, if we got a hole in one, you'd get me a car, wouldn't you?
Sure.
I'm sure that's how it'd roll. Plenty more sport coming up in our main bulletin at 6, including the Crows coach Matthew Nix. We're talking contracts.
Oh, looking forward to that. Thank you, Abba. Well, it's been a hot and sunny summer's day across the city, and it's set to heat up even more over the next couple of days. Gertie will have those details after the break.
When big news events happen, turn to 7 News.
As it unfolds, you'll see it live.
This is the blaze that's destroyed this Holden Hill home.
To breaking news now.
More exclusive details on this story.
First responders have described the scene as chaotic.
Taking you right to the source.
7 News has exclusive pictures of his rescue.
It's much more than simply getting facts right.
We strive to ensure you know the complete story.
Know the news with 7 News.
Mike Smithson has our main bulletin at 6. Smitho, what have you got for us?
Well, arsonists and hot weather certainly don't mix. We'll have more on that terrifying incident for some residents in Hillbank overnight. See if you can help identify the fleeing suspects. We're live to Melbourne again for another dose of Swiftie fever. How much bigger can Taylor Swift get? In Selling SA, the evolution of Croydon's famous Queen Street precinct into the hippest part of town. Surprised you're not there, El. And groundbreaking treatment for advanced melanoma. When will it be available here? Not that I'm suggesting you shift house, but it's very trendy down there.
Good advice. Thank you, Smitho. Well, let's get a check of the weather now. And Gertie joins us from Chinatown, where thousands are celebrating the Lunar New Year, Gertie.
The annual Gooda Street Party is in full swing here to celebrate the Year of the Dragon. There's plenty of food stalls set up tonight, live music and entertainment. Everyone's favourite is, of course, the line dancers, and we are expecting a traditional performance very shortly with another one in an hour's time. And spare a thought for those in costume this evening too. It's very warm here in the city, currently 30 degrees. The overnight low was 13. We reached a top of 33 this afternoon. Around the country, mostly sunny in Melbourne. Another mild night for Swiftie fans, currently 22 there. Showers still a chance in Sydney, partly cloudy in Brisbane, right now it's 28. Hot in Perth, 37 at the moment. A ridge of high pressure is sitting over waters to the south of the state, and that's driving the heat. A trough is triggering some showers over parts of the far northeast. We could hear the odd rumble of thunder again in the far north tomorrow. 41's the top for Coober Pedy, Roxby and Maree. Maximum temperatures about average along southern coast, looking warm inland. 27 for Port Lincoln, 33 for Whyalla, 38 for Port Augusta and Renmark, 31 for Murray Bridge, 25 for Edithburgh, 23 for Victor, 32 for Narracourt. And heavy rains triggered flooding along the Cooper Creek at Inaminka. There's also an extreme fire danger warning for the eastern Eyre Peninsula. Bone dry in the city tomorrow though, staying mild overnight. 15's the low with a top of 33 degrees on the way. Plenty more summer weather to come too, El. More on that in the full forecast tonight.
Thank you, Gertie. And that's all from the Early Edition team. Smitho will have all the day's top stories for you in 7 News at 6. From me, it's bye for now.
Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7 Plus. And with 7news.com.au, you'll know the news now.